Presently in 2024, we are in a high inflation environment with a high cost of living, and with most houses consistently reaching new all-time highs. If you're in your early 20s or maybe even 30s, it might feel like an impossible feat to buy a home in this day and age. In this video, I'll cover exactly how much home you can afford based off your specific debt, income, and savings. This is fully based on my experience being a licensed real estate agent in New Hampshire and Massachusetts and buying 3 properties myself. I am not a licensed lender, so additional qualifications could be applicable for your given situation, and you should absolutely check with a licensed lender to verify your specific qualifications that might be applicable for you. Now we'll go ahead and jump into the video, but first hit that subscribe button so you'll see future videos on real estate as well as finance as soon as I post them. When qualifying for a home, there are some key factors that a lender will consider and look at. They'll look at your debt, your income, your credit score, your assets, as well as your savings. These are all weighed differently, but debt, income, and savings are the big 3. The lender wants to know what your expected take home after any debt might be in order to afford the monthly payments of the house you intend to acquire. For most of these examples, I will not be considering debt, as it's very difficult to come up with a specific number of how much debt each person might have. But a good rule of thumb is for every dollar of debt you have, it'll reduce your monthly mortgage buying power by about $2.34. Say you qualify for a monthly mortgage of $4,000 a month, but have student loans of $1,000 a month, then your buying power will be reduced by $2,340 a month. Your initial qualified amount was $4,000, so this would now turn into $1,660. So in this specific instance, you'd be able to afford a monthly mortgage up to this $1,660 a month amount. Now this is very isolated and there are other factors that the lender will consider, but I'm trying to build the so-called foundation with each of these points so then we can jump into the specifics of how much house you can actually afford. Key takeaway on this one is your new mortgage shouldn't be more than 35% of the gross income that you take home. Next is income. Income we just touched upon briefly, but this is one of the big 4 key factors that a lender will look at. Obviously, the more money you make, the more house you can afford. Lenders look at your gross income. They'll need proof of consistent W-2 income. They will generally require 2 of the most recent pay stubs for proof of said income. If you're self-employed, then 2 years of tax returns to ensure that your income doesn't fluctuate greatly to the point where 1 month you might not be able to afford those housing payments. Number 3 is credit. Best terms are given to the borrowers with over a 740 credit score. If you have a credit score that's less than that, then go ahead and check out my video on building credit. I'll link it down below. Now, if you're below this, it doesn't mean that you can't get a house. It just means that the loan might have a few more conditions. The interest rate might be a little bit higher, and there just might be more stipulations on the actual loan just to make sure that the lender knows that you'll make your payments on time. Credit score is also an indicator of your ability to pay back the money you borrow. In short, the longer history you have in paying back your debt on time and to completion, the higher your credit score will ultimately be. Key takeaway on this, over 740, you get the best lending terms, and if you're below that, you should work on improving it to make sure you're getting the best lending terms. Assets and savings are also looked at because the lender wants to know the source of capital on where your money is coming from. Has it been sitting in the savings account that you've been working on for years? Or did you just sell something that you shouldn't have and you got a big payday from it? Lenders want peace of mind that if you lose your job or your primary source of income dips, then you'll still have enough savings or assets to make those monthly payments on time. Sometimes the more you put down, the more favorable your terms will be on the loan. Once again, there are other factors to consider, or that the lender considers, but the key takeaway on this one is more money down equals less risk for the lender, which equals generally better terms for you as the borrower. Okay, now we've gotten the foundation in place for debt, income, credit score, assets, and savings. So how much can you afford based off of your specific income? Well, let's take Cam for example. Cam makes $60,000 a year at a W-2 job and has about $40,000 saved up. Cam has a 740 credit score with 0 debt. He plans to put 20% down on the house so he doesn't have to pay PMI insurance. PMI is mortgage insurance and is generally required whenever you put less than 20% down on a housing purchase. In the mortgage payments, there's also taxes, insurance, and interest. So we'll base this off of a tax amount, property tax, of $5,000 a year, insurance of $1,200 a year, and an interest rate of 7%. Cam once again has $40,000 saved up and will need a portion of that money for closing fees and closing costs. So we'll use $30,000 of that for the 20% down payment on the house. This means that Cam would be able to afford a $150,000 house by putting 20% down. A $150,000 house would have monthly payments of $1,314 a month, which would be within that 35% debt to income ratio. This would give you about 255,000 homes to choose from across the US, ranging from Venice, Florida, all the way to Palm Springs, California. Now, different locations offer different housing budgets, so you might be able to get a little more for your money in Venice, Florida than in Palm Springs, California. But you get the point. So what if Cam made double the amount of money and brought in $120,000 a year at a W-2 job and saved up $80,000? He has that same 740 credit score with no debt and wants to put 20% down on his house. For this example, we'll assume a higher amount for taxes and insurance as he'll be buying a more expensive house. So for taxes, we'll figure an amount of $8,000 a year. For insurance, we'll do $2,000 a year, and we'll have the same interest rate at 7%. Cam still needs money for closing, so we'll only use $70,000 of that $80,000 for the down payment. This means Cam would be able to afford a $350,000 house putting 20% down. A $350,000 house would have monthly mortgage payments of $2,696 a month, which would be within that 35% debt to income ratio. A $350,000 house would give you well over 264,000 homes to choose from, once again across all of the US. $350,000
Houston, Texas
will get you a brand new construction, 3,000 square feet, 4-bed, 4-bath. Or a 1,600 square foot, 3-bed, 2-bath in Bakersfield, California. All right, so we've covered the 60 to 120K income range. But what if Cam made $300,000 per year and had $180,000 saved up for that 20% down payment and closing costs? Cam still has 0 debt and a credit score over 740. And for this one, we'll figure $12,000 for taxes and $2,500 for insurance. His 7% interest rate will remain the same, and we'll only use $165,000 of that $180,000 that he had saved up, leaving the rest for closing costs. With all this considered, Cam would now be able to afford a $825,000 house. An $825,000 house would have monthly payments of $5,599 a month, which is once again below that 35% debt to income threshold. So what can $825,000 really get you? Well, your options would be opened up to well over 600,000 homes to choose from across all of the US. In a lot of states, if you want something in the suburbs, this can generally get you a mansion for the most part. In Beverly Hills, this will get you a 550 square foot studio with 1 bathroom, and it's in an apartment. But move to Phoenix, Arizona, and this will get you a beautiful 4-bed, 3-bath, 3,200 square foot paradise with an in-ground pool, fireplace, and lanai. Anything over this income threshold, your options continue to open up and you get into the $1 million price range. If you have the same $1,000 in student loans that we talked about earlier and make $120,000 a year, then your qualifiable income would now be $7,660 a month. $120,000 at 12 months would be $10,000 a month, minus the $2,340 gives you $7,660. The mortgage for this bracket is based upon a $350,000 house and was $2,696 a month. So compare that $2,696 a month to the $7,660, and you're still having that 35% debt to income ratio on the dot, which means you would likely still qualify for this house even with $1,000 a month in student loan payments. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you don't forget to go ahead and hit the subscribe button and check out one of my other videos over here.